Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Still unnamed, but you know what? We're just gonna move past that. Stop sending us letters about it. It's fine. We don't need a title. It's fine. It's fine. I just want to start off this episode by reading the little memo I received. Let's see, who is this from? This is from Hank from accounting. Oh, this guy. Okay. It reads. After the financial tumult of the last few years, our company is making a commitment to cut down on excess spending. The following items will no longer be purchased: rubber bands, plutonium, tinfoil, birdseed, model ships, and cursed relics. Rest assured that the board of directors is instituting these changes in a goodwill effort to make the company stronger, and certainly not for any nefarious purpose. Why would you write a sentence like that? The board of directors flatly denies any and all rumors surrounding the funneling of finances into a top secret project. Signed, Hank Bloomfield, head accountant. Well, gee, Hank, great job making me not suspicious. You know what? It's fine. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. It's fine. It's fine. I'm sure they have our best interests in mind. They wouldn't do anything nefarious at all. I'm joined today by Natalie. Say hello, Natalie.
Hello.
And we are now, layman's perspective, this looks like some sort of a workshop. What is this place exactly?
So it's basically a workshop. I work mainly with mechanical items. Right now I'm working on a mechanical Raven. He's over here on my desk. He's a mess. He's still work in progress. But yeah, so I could show you if you want to see.
Sure,
Um,
absolutely. What's
uh, yeah. So this and I'll pick it up here and show you.
uh-huh.
So yeah, this is his head. Here's his beak. Um, here's his
Cute little fella.
wings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then oh, sorry, it's fidgety. Um, yeah, I'm trying to get him to fly right now. It's not going very well, but it's fine. I'll figure it out. I'm gonna set that right there before I break it.
It looks great.
Thank you. I work on all kinds of random things here, so if
You aren't going
someone
to be
needs
affected
something,
by the cut down on the items, right? Like you weren't working with any of those things.
I don't think so, no. It's
Okay, good.
mostly metal, so
No plut
hopefully
no plutonium lying around
no,
anywhere.
no, no.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, when I left the Cosmic Kitchen, Mitch told me specifically to go visit his girlfriend down in the tinkering department, and
Mhm.
I must say this place is pretty impressive. And besides the robotic bird, which I is that just like a personal project, or are you allowed to disclose what it's for? Like, is it
Uh,
the board of directors? Like,
it's a personal thing.
oh,
I
interesting.
yeah. I'm just,
Well, robotic
it gets
crows are dope.
I mean, it gets a little boring down here, so maybe once I get working, he can be up and flying around and probably cause more trouble than it might be worth. I don't know. We'll see. But
I
yeah.
found an article. This was a couple months ago. I was so every once in a while, I'm on my phone and I'll swipe over to the side, and it's like a generic news feed that
Mhm.
it changes like every couple of days, and I try not to pay super close attention to it just cuz usually I don't care. But there was one article that I saw absentmindedly, like swiped past it, and then immediately did like a cartoon like double take and had to immediately scroll back up and be like, "Excuse me, what?" So I'm gonna set the scene, all right,
Okay.
and I'm gonna set the scene, and I want your genuine reaction to this. So this part you're probably familiar with. So I will read from the Wikipedia article. On the 15th of April 2019, just before 1820 CEST, a structural fire broke out beneath the roof of Notre Dame de Paris, a medieval Catholic cathedral in Paris, France. By the time the fire was extinguished, the cathedral's spire had collapsed, most of its roof had been destroyed, and its upper walls were severely damaged. Extensive damage to the interior was prevented by its vaulted stone ceiling, which largely contained the burning roof as it collapsed. Many works of art and religious relics were moved to safety early in the emergency, but others suffered smoke damage, and some of the exterior art was damaged or destroyed. And then it goes on to list some of the stuff that was damaged. And I can't even remember. I think there was some question about what exactly happened. If I recall, okay, here's the entry on the fire. Broke out in the attic beneath the cathedral's roof. Fire alarm sounded. Blah blah blah. 15 minutes later, the error was discovered. Alarm system was not designed to automatically notify the fire brigade. That seems like a bad design.
Oh dear,
Isn't that the
that's
point of a
not
fire?
good. I
Isn't that
know.
the point of an alarm? Okay, whatever. Let's see. I feel like there was like a big investigation. Like when
Mhm.
it first happened, I thought there was something about a construction crew or like there was people working on the cathedral and that's why the fire started was because like one of the crew like left something behind. I don't even remember how exactly it happened. Let's see. Investigation on 16th of April. Paris prosecutor said there was no evidence of a deliberate act. Blah blah blah. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, renovations. Renovations presented a fire risk from sparks, short circuits, and heat from welding. So it could be any number of like repair stuff that caused it. But the reason why I thought of this was because of an article that I came across not too long ago, which as soon as I read like the headline of it, it
Mhm.
like took my breath away because it sounded like it was made up. So
Yeah.
here's the article. Notre Dame's spire had two hidden coffins beneath it. Now scientists know who was buried there. When I saw that, when I saw that like
Okay.
two coffins were discovered in the aftermath of the fire in Notre Dame, my first reaction was don't open them.
Right.
I was like,
That's bad news.
the fact that they were discovered because of a fire burned it down. I was like, don't crack those open. Whatever is in there, do not have anything to do with it. But I guess months after the fact, they cracked them open because I think they were like lead lined, like they're lead
Mhm.
coffins, and they found two different like remains. One of like an older person that they think was probably like worked for or in the church, and then another person who was like probably nobility of some sort based on some like factors about the bones, whatever they found. The whole thing is very, very interesting. So there's like a younger guy and an older guy, both in coffins, and both were only found after a major part of the church burned down. And like the whole story, it's just very oh, what's his name? Lovecraft. It's very Lovecraftian of like these
Right.
coffins that are found merely because a church burns down. What do you do with them? And like, how much is the knowledge of who's in there? How much is it worth to
Mhm.
you to potentially crack open something like that? I would never. I would just be like,
I
if
yeah.
if I was the one who came across these coffins, I'd just be like, no, thank you. I'd walk right out of that room. That is not for me.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's stories of like people finding like tombs and like sarcophagus and like pyramids and stuff, and then they open it and there's like a curse or whatever. It's like, why would you even risk that?
Why would you ever
Why would
risk
you
it?
even
Why
try?
would you open that gift box? That's not for you. This
Right. It's closed for a reason, you know?
And then you
Like,
have like just these white aristocrats in the United States who just treat these sarcophagi like freaking loot boxes
mm-hmm.
and just like have like mummy unwrapping parties. That has got to be the most one of the most privileged sick things that I ever heard about in history was just
Yeah.
like having a social gathering all surrounded around desecrating a body. Like what? When I first found out, I was like, rich people have too much time and money on their hands. I was
They
like,
really do.
that's
They
such a
really do.
problem. And then nowadays, like all this Egyptology, all these artifacts that were stolen, like grave robbed, are like the whole ethical question of like even though they serve an educational purpose in all these museums and stuff. What is the moral thing to do? Is it to keep it where it is so that way people can learn about it in these museums? Or is it proper to ship it all back to Egypt and put it back where it belongs? Which I'm firmly in that camp, but I can understand why it would be a difficult thing.
I mean, it's like You find these things, you want to learn as much as you can about it, but you also like you don't want to disrespect it because
Yes.
that's still someone's body.
Yeah.
Like
I
it's
could, yeah.
weird.
I could never understand, like, I don't know, wanting to get that close to something of that nature. Like, I just don't get it. Especially since, like, I think there's also something twisted about removing the body of someone from a place where they firmly believed in, like, a specific kind of afterlife where, like,
Hmm.
they would be with all of their loved ones and their possessions or whatever the belief was. It just seems sort of sick and twisted to remove them. Even though they're long dead, it still should feel wrong to remove them out of that if that's what their expectation was, that they would remain there, indefinitely for all eternity. It's just like you're
Yeah,
disrespecting their last wishes by removing them from that place. It's just, the whole thing's just wild.
right. You're basically grave robbing. Like it's not. Yeah, not good. Not good at all.
And on the
But
topic of grave robbing, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show, real or fake McDonald's characters.
oh boy.
So, I have 5 potential real or fake McDonald's characters. So I've been listening through. There's another podcast called the Foolish Wanderers podcast, and they did a
Hmm.
two-parter on McDonald's lore, and it was legitimately one of the funniest, most enjoyable things that I have ever listened to podcast-wise. And so it inspired this segment because some of the characters, as I was hearing them talk about it, I was like, no shot that's real. There is no way that at some point a group of professional designers or whatever gathered around a table and were just like, we're gonna make this character to unveil this new product. I was just like, this can't be real. So I will read off the name of the character and then a short description, and it is your job to give me a simple true or false. Are they real or did I make it up? Are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
Number 1, Peppy, a character created to introduce the new McDonald's pizza.
Um, I feel like that could have been a thing. I'm gonna say true. I feel like that could have been a possibility.
It is false. I made it up.
Oh, really?
But it
Wow.
does sound real though.
Yeah, it does. I
McDonald's
can see
pizza is one of
I
those
could see it.
things. Yeah, you can see it. McDonald's pizza is one of those things that I've always heard referenced, but I have
Hmm.
no evidence. Like, I know that, like, some people who are older than me have described it like they remember it, and I'm like, I have no idea. I have no memory of that. Uh, Number 2, the Fry Kids, strange little pom pom creatures that steal your fries.
No. What? That's terrifying. For kids?
Real or fake?
I'm gonna say that's fake. Why
That's
would you do
true.
that?
It's true.
That's terrible.
So if you go back into your mind palace, back to when they had um play places everywhere, I guarantee you, here, I'm going to look it up on the terminal real quick. I guarantee you, if you see an image of the Fry Kids, it will unlock something in your memory from all the weird little murals that were on the walls of McDonald's. You probably saw them on walls, and, like, they were. I have a faint memory of the Fry Kids.
Oh my god. Yep, I do vaguely remember that actually.
Yeah, as soon as I heard
Yeah,
it described, I was like, oh, it unlocked something in my brain. I was like,
that's
wait a
terrible.
minute.
Why
Yeah,
would you want to steal kids' fries?
I don't
Like, what
know.
the heck?
They're just, they
I
steal,
went to
they,
McDonald's for fries. Like, that was my thing.
yeah, these
Like,
guys
I,
should
I
be
don't want that.
charged with high treason.
Really, though.
Throw them in the dungeons. Okay, number 3, Officer Big Mac, a constable who keeps order in McDonald Land.
I'm gonna say that's true. I feel like that feels familiar.
Ding 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 ding! Officer Big
Uh,
Mac is real.
yeah. I'm thinking of when I was a kid when they had mascots. Like, who did they have? I vaguely remember that guy. Yeah.
I have something on that. Yeah, absolutely. Number 4, Leaf Greens, a failed character created to promote McDonald's salads to children.
Hmm. I feel like that could be a thing if they wanted to be a little more healthier. They have salads, don't they? Yeah.
I think.
I think. I don't know, actually. I
Real
don't
or
order.
fake? Real or fake?
Um, hmm. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say real. I'm gonna say it was an attempt, maybe.
I made it up!
You made that up?
I made
Jeez.
it up!
Okay.
Because it's another thing that I'm like, I remember people talking, like complaining and making fun of the fact that McDonald's made salads. And so I was like, I could do something with that. Because obviously, like you said, no one gets salads at McDonald's. So I could
Right.
probably just make up anything. Because who would care if they made a mascot trying to promote McDonald's salads?
Right.
Who cares? All
You
right.
don't go to McDonald's for that. Come on.
No, absolutely not. You when you walk into a McDonald's, you are walking in there with both eyes open. You know exactly why you're there. You're not
Mm-hmm.
there for salad. I mean, come on. All right. Number 5. The Professor, an inventor with a light bulb atop his head.
Mm. The professor. That sounds like it could be real, but I don't know if it was. I'm gonna say false for that one. Assuming it
The
was real, wasn't
Professor
it?
is real.
Really?
Okay,
I'm so
hold
bad at
on.
this.
No, you're fine. Hold on. Let me pull him up on the terminal. It's even worse than you could possibly imagine.
Oh no.
There he is.
Oh dear.
He looks like
Wow.
I don't even know how to describe him. He looks like Einstein if Einstein was balder somehow, and like it's like Einstein had a child with Colonel Sanders. It's not
Yeah.
good. It's not
Right.
good. Anyways, that was see, okay, so here's my point. Even though you didn't get all of them right, the
Mhm.
plain and simple fact is, here's the point of the game. Any of those sounded so outlandish that the ones that I made up were indistinguishable from characters that McDonald's, the company, actually made. Right? So it's like
Yeah.
the nonsense ones that I made sound and make as much sense as the real ones that they made.
Right. Yeah.
Because when I listened to that podcast, it just sent me off on this spiral of just like, I'm very fascinated by companies that created these mascots or characters, and then over time, they were either phased out, replaced, forgotten, etc. But you still have the lingering memories that people have of these characters, but then also, like, somewhere in either landfills or storage facilities are probably a bunch of old McDonald's, like, memorabilia with these characters on it, or like models or statues of them or toys. Like, that lights my brain on fire. I find that so fascinating.
Oh yeah. It's probably worth a lot nowadays too,
Oh,
since it doesn't
absolutely.
exist anymore. So.
I mean, to get onto something somewhat similar, I always forget what it's called. Showbiz Pizza. Hold on. Let me when you see this bear, you will wonder. So it's called Rockafire. That's what it was. Rockafire Explosion was the name of this band. And I don't remember if it was a precursor to Chuck E. Cheese or if it happened at the same time as. But I know that Chuck E. Cheese, I think, eventually bought them out. As soon as I'll pull it up on the terminal for you. But basically,
Okay.
like, it was the Showbiz Pizza Bear is off to the side, and like, you can find archive footage of people who were in these locations. Number one, the freaking Showbiz Pizza Bear is an atrocity. Like, if you see close-up pictures of the Showbiz Pizza Bear, when you see it, you're like, who designed this and gave it the green light?
This
Why?
was the precursor to Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm just
No,
gonna say
it's
it right now.
absolutely is. But I mean, I guess it makes sense
Yeah.
because, like, if you look at, heck, I mean, here, I'll pull up an original, like, picture of Chuck E. Cheese. Like, the early design of Chuck E. Cheese is freaking horrifying. Here he
Yeah.
is, off to the right over there. Look at him. It
Oh
looks like he'd
my
steal your
goodness.
soul. Like, who, I don't understand, like, who gave, like I said, who, like, gave the green light for this? Who was like, oh,
Yeah.
we're making a restaurant for children and we're gonna have animatronics? Yeah, let's green light this. Like, whenever I think about Five Nights at Freddy's, I think that was just a masterstroke of, I think a lot of modern horror games are
Mhm.
trying to thread the needle of like taking something that's supposed to be beloved, that scratches the nostalgia itch of a lot of people in our age group, but then has some sort of a perverted twist to it where it's X but Y. It's X being some beloved or cherished memory of like a character or a restaurant or something, and then Y being some sort of a twist, right?
Mhm.
And I think it was a really good idea. Scott Coffin, the guy who came up with Five Nights at Freddy's, like, it's a really good concept because I feel like a lot of people, like, I think I went to a Chuck E. Cheese one time in my entire life, and I'll never forget it because I
Right.
saw the animatronic band performing on stage. It was weird. Even as a kid, I was like, this is weird. And for me, I don't know about you, it falls into one of the categories of things where as a kid it was a little strange, but you just sort of accepted it. And now as an adult, when I look back and look at photos of these characters, I'm dumbfounded at like they're scarier to me now than they were then. It's so strange. I can't even describe what
Mhm.
that is.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I don't think I went to like a lot of those places as a kid, but I remember like going to places like it and just being like, yeah, this is normal, like this is cool, I guess. And now I, like you said, I look at it and like, what in the world? They
Yeah.
thought that was okay? Like
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't
It's
have
like
nightmares? Like what?
it's like retroactive horror. It's like
Yeah,
reliving something that your child brain smoothed right over and was like, no, this is fine. And then
right.
upon revisiting it now, you're like, oh no, no, this is all wrong. This is awful. This
I
is
want nothing to do
horrible.
with this.
Which I obviously, since you're working with a robotic, is it a raven? It's a
Yeah,
raven,
it's a
right?
raven.
Yeah, it's a raven.
Yeah.
So do you have a problem with like animatronics, like the uncanny valley? Because I know some people can't do animatronics at all. Like they hate everything from the way they move to the way that like their voice is like doesn't match their mouth. Like what are your thoughts on animatronics?
Um, they don't bother me too much, I don't think. I don't they're weird. I definitely think
Yeah.
they're weird. Um, but I'm not like totally like put off by them. It's just interesting that they've become like a thing where they're like a source of entertainment now,
Yeah.
like for kids. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't get it. I don't get it really.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, I guess if it makes some money,
Yeah.
make
And
some money.
that's why I thought it was just so interesting because specifically I think Showbiz Pizza is no longer an entity. I could be wrong about that. I think they were completely bought out by Chuck E. Cheese and like the animatronics have been retired. I remember a couple of years ago, one of my sisters pulled up. It was an entire video compilation. You can find it on YouTube of just like animatronic malfunctions where like an eye falls out or it starts smoking and catches on fire.
Oh, jeez.
That's again, it's just like imagining being in the crowd when that happens and then having a bunch of like underpaid teenage employees have to run out and like close the curtains so the kids don't
Oh
see
man.
like an animatronic having a freak out and then like starting on fire and like the
Goodness
voice chip is
gracious.
all garbled. Like that just
Right.
makes, I don't know why. I have a dark sense of humor. I just think that's so funny of just like these employees being like, "Oh no. Oh no, Billy Bob's on fire again." Well, we've
uh,
talked about creepy characters, but I wanted to ask you about a dope character. Now,
okay.
Mitch told me all about his D&D Mass Effect campaign, obviously, and I have had
Mhm.
the privilege of being able to listen to the episodes myself. And I know you guys are planning on doing a Q&A sometime soon, which I'm very excited about.
Yep.
One of the questions that I had for you with regards specifically to Piper
Mhm.
is whether consciously or unconsciously, when people create D&D characters, Mass Effect themed or otherwise, I feel that there is always little bits and pieces of other characters sprinkled in there. And I'm always curious to have people explain, unless it gets into like spoiler territory for like their future goals, which I doubt it does. But I was just curious, what were some of your inspirations for Piper?
Ooh, yeah, I saw that question. I had to think about it. So for Piper, I basically, well, she is a twin. She has a twin brother
Mm-hmm.
who's currently missing. It's a big part of her story right now.
Right.
Um, Big inspiration I drew for the twins was from Critical Role. In the
Okay.
first campaign, there was two player characters that were twins. They were a boy and girl pair, Vex and Vax. I've drawn a lot of inspiration from them, simply like their relationship, like how close they were, that kind of thing, Um, because I don't know, I personally have always had a fascination with twins. I'm not a twin myself, but I just think that kind of dynamic has always been cool,
Mm.
and I wanted to like explore that in like a D&D setting. So I was like, hey, what if I did that in this setting? Just give it a shot, see how it goes. Especially with Mass Effect, there being like biotics, like space magic essentially.
Right.
And what if the other sibling goes missing? How would that affect her?
Mm.
And that kind of thing. So I set up this whole entire story for her, um, and she's been dealing with that. So yeah, I mean, I've got the twins from Critical Role. I'm trying to think of others.
Well, I mean, while you're thinking about that, just as a feather in your cap, just to say, like, that's probably my favorite recurring plot line. Like,
Hmm.
it's one of the things I'm most invested in about the series is like,
Yeah.
I want to see the resolution to that, right? And
Yeah.
I think it speaks volumes about how you're playing the character and then also how Mitch is directing the story.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
because
Definitely.
there's a lot of timing. I've been a dungeon master before. There's a lot of timing that goes into trying to give players little bits and pieces so that way they're not getting everything they want at once, because you don't want to rob them of a core aspect of their character or what their character is going after. But at the same time, when you have so many characters to manage, it can be
Hmm.
difficult to sort of circle back to some things about individual characters and what they want and what they're looking for, what they're afraid of. And so I think the best players sort of help guide their dungeon master back to that subtly
Hmm.
without knocking them over the head and saying, "Dummy, I'm looking for my twin. I'm
Right.
stressed about
Yeah.
this. Don't mess with me
Yeah.
right now. I'm trying to, it's there's a delicate balance I feel like. And
Hmm.
for dungeon masters, that finding that balance of like not playing favorites with your characters can be so difficult. It can be
Right.
so
Yeah.
difficult if you really get on a roll with a character and they're like opening up and they're like really just shining in the spotlight. It can be difficult to remember I have other players, I have other characters I need to manage and give them little bits and pieces of what they want and what they need. And it's just, again, just a testament to how enjoyable the campaign has been to listen to thus far.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, and I definitely, I mean, we have to give it to Mitchell because he's the one managing all of that. Because we're very much in Piper's arc right now with her search, but he's still making time for like give like Strux a spotlight with like the captain, like the Krogan Captain Lord, and like
Mm-hmm.
with the Quarians with like their stuff. Mary's trying to find a body for her dad, and like
Mm-hmm.
he's created NPCs in the location we're at to like that could potentially build that. Like he's still giving the others a time of day while it's still Piper's thing, but the others are still having, you know, their moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I really have to give credit to Mitchell for that, for being able to manage that. I don't know if I could do that. Like I would want to, obviously, but yeah, what he's done so far with everything has been so impressive, and I know he puts a lot of time and effort and love into this campaign, and we all, I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think it's safe to say we all really appreciate it, what he does. I did do a I did a session of a Feywild like module.
Ooh.
Uh The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. That's a
Okay.
D&D like adventure book. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I think I've heard of it.
Um, but I love the Feywild, so I got that on my birthday a couple years ago at a bookstore, and I was like, I want to run this. I did a session of it. It was fun. I think the players really enjoyed it, but I didn't have as much fun as I had hoped I would as a DM. Um, like it didn't go bad. Like it was still good, but I
Hmm.
don't know. I guess my expectations were different. And I was like, yeah, this was fun. I'm glad you guys like tried it with me, but I don't know if I want to keep doing this, like kind of thing. Um,
It's definitely, I think it comes down to, and this is like a, it's not a revelation, but
yeah.
the group that you're doing it with
Oh, absolutely.
is
Yeah.
absolutely like, as a DM, if you have the wrong group, it's not fun. Even if you
Right.
like all the people in the group individually,
Mhm.
sometimes that group doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be conducive to like running a game, keeping things
Mhm.
on track, or in my example, like when I was DMing, I had players who knew a lot more about D&D than I did, like the rules, and I didn't.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of times I'd get stuff wrong and they'd have to like correct me on it, and I'm like, "Nope, you're right. I completely forgot about X, Y, or Z." And you just sort of
Mhm.
have to take it and move on because it's like
Right.
you're not going to know everything off rip. And I mean, like, I would just have to resort to rule of cool a lot to keep the session momentum going sometimes.
Yeah, there was definitely when I was running that specific game, there was things that I thought would happen that didn't happen. So I had to like keep my cool, be like, okay, I need to adjust a bit to, you know, cater to what they just did. And I'm a very anxious person. So I think that got to me a little bit. I'm like, okay, like it was okay in the end. We still had a good time and everything, but I think my with my anxiety, it's trickier. So I was like, hey guys, like I had a good time. I'm really sorry. I don't know if I could keep doing this.
Oh, I mean,
Um,
like, I totally got that. I totally got that.
yeah.
Like you said, if you were trying to like lay a trail of breadcrumbs to a specific eventuality, and
Mhm.
something comes up where either the characters get sidetracked, or one player comes up with an idea or a theory or a plan that just goes totally against what you were hoping would happen, and then like you
Yeah.
said, you have to just like adjust on the fly,
Mhm.
and it's sometimes it's just not so sometimes it's salvageable and sometimes it's not. I'll put it that way.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
sometimes you get very lucky where the random thing that was unplanned ends up being better than what you planned, but a lot of
Yeah.
times the derailment just puts a lot of excess strain on the DM to like, oh no, how do I salvage this?
Right. Like obviously you don't want to railroad people. Like you don't want to make them do things that they don't want to do because that's not fun for them.
Back to Piper. As far as like personality traits, was there anything that any character that you took from, or even just like your own playthroughs of Mass Effect, where you were like, I want to use this. Like I like this aspect of Piper's character. Maybe that's the way I should couch the question. Like, what's your favorite trait or traits
Ooh,
of Piper? Like, what do you like about that character so much?
that's a good question. She's very loyal to the people she cares about and the
Mm,
people that are, loyal to her. Um, Specifically like her crewmates and like her family. Like obviously she's going through so much to get her brother back right now because like for the first 10 years of her life, that was her best friend. That was her person.
right.
Um, and then, she lost her mom and she lost him and then her dad and her became estranged after they were gone. So I think her sense of loyalty to her family is of something I really like about her, because I have a sense of loyalty to my own family,
Yeah.
and friends, and just her willingness to do anything she can to like fix what was taken from her. Like obviously she's not going to get her mom back, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a chance she could get her brother back. She's going to do everything she can to do that. And she's starting to fix her relationship with her dad after so many years. And, obviously while doing all that, she's helping her friends, like her crewmates, do what they need to do. Like she helped Miri and Wong get their planet back, and now she's gonna try and help Miri find another body for her dad, and like all these other things. She's a very determined person. She's one of those people where if you set your mind to something, like that's it, like that's your goal. I knew going in, like obviously, like before you start a game, you have an idea of what you want your character to be like, but like obviously once you start playing that could change like immediately. So just seeing how much she's like grown and developed in our 30 plus sessions that we've played since we started, it's been great and really rewarding. um
It's been great to listen to. And like
yeah.
I think that's always the catch 22, right, with making
Hmm.
quality characters is that if you have a good DM, you're at least if you've played D&D before, you are aware that while you are crafting your character, you are placing a lot of ammunition in your dungeon master's hand for good or ill.
Oh
Where it's
yeah.
like the more details you give your dungeon master as far as your character's backstory, their likes, their dislikes, their fears, their hopes, like that there's a good chance that some of that will rise to the surface at some point. And so it's this, like I said, it's like a catch 22. It's like I want to make a quality character that I can get invested in, but I also know that there's going to be some future pain for this character because of their backstory, because of how well written they are. I know in real time as I'm giving over this delicate information about my character that there will have to be a confrontation at some point in the future regarding all this information. But it's like you said, it's being able to track um, that progression, right?
Hmm.
So I'll give you an example. So years ago, when I was working on my Eagle Scout project, it was very stressful. There was a lot of there was a lot of paperwork for some reason. Like the sheer number of paperwork that I had to fill out for my project. It was just like how many trees had to die. We learned about conservation. How many trees had to die
Oh
for this
man.
stupid booklet so I could fill out all the details. Regardless, there was a lot of days where I would just sit at my desk and I'm working through the paperwork and I'm like going on the Home Depot's websites and I'm trying to figure out how much is lumber gonna like how much is stuff going to cost. And you reach the end of the day and it just feels like you did nothing the whole day. It just feels like you banged your head against a wall over and over again, and you feel like you
Hmm.
didn't progress. You feel like all of that time felt wasted, even if you technically did stuff and got stuff done. You don't feel that sense of accomplishment, right? And so it was during that time when I really got back into playing Minecraft because I would have an entire day of feeling like I did nothing. And then I would get onto Minecraft and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to clear cut this area over here. I'm going to level it out. I'm going to build walls around it. And it was like immediate, right? It was like, there's no
Hmm.
paperwork. There's no waiting. I told my dad during the whole process, I was like, I would rather be out digging a hole right now for the project than filling out paperwork about the project. I would rather
Yeah.
be like moving the supplies, buying it from the store, taking it to the location. I would rather be doing the project now rather than writing about my plan to do the project. And because like you said, it's like being able to track that progression. So when it came to like me playing Minecraft, it was I'm able to see the progress unfold in real time. And
Hmm.
it made me feel good about myself because it was like
Yeah.
I can do stuff. And so for your character, specifically for Piper, for any character, being able to track that progression, at least for me when I was a player, just really scratched that itch of like,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not creating a character with the intention of creating someone static. I want to create someone who can evolve, who can change, who can become better. I want to leave this experience with this make believe character I created. I want them to be different for the better. I want them to change because there's something so satisfying, like you said, about 30 plus sessions of being able to sit back and be like, look at how far my characters come from session one. Like,
Hmm.
look at the change that has happened. And I don't know, there's just something, almost therapeutic about it. Of just like
Oh,
this
absolutely.
character can change, this character can improve. It's just so cool.
Yeah. And it's funny, like you said about handing over, your details, the details to the DM, and it all basically being in their hands. Like everything that's going on with Preston, like I wrote in her backstory that he disappeared and she has no idea what happened to him. Like he could be dead, he could be alive. I don't know. Like Piper doesn't know. I
Little
don't
did you
know.
know.
So yeah, Mitchell definitely took that and ran with it.
Oh yeah, he's
So
sprinting with it.
he's made him this ongoing elusive antagonist of ours that we've been chasing for a while now. Um, which I love personally. I as a player, I as Natalie love it. Piper not so much. She's a little fed up
That's
with
all.
it.
Real quick, I don't want to interrupt. That's always hard, isn't it? Whenever you
Yeah.
have something that your character you is like, oh, my character is in so much turmoil right now, but you as a
Yeah.
player being able to respect the story and the things that are being set up, you're like, oh, this is good story. Meanwhile, your
Mhm.
character is like having the worst day of their life,
Oh
and you're
yeah.
like, oh, this story is so good, but my character is so not happy right now.
No. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good like balance. It's a good like test of skill, like a improv skill,
Mm,
because definitely when we're playing, I'm Piper. I'm in her mindset. Like, okay, for the next 4 hours, I'm gonna be Piper.
mm-hmm.
What is she thinking? What is she feeling? What is she doing? Like Natalie is not here right now,
Right.
unless I need to be Natalie for like for a minute.
Technical reason. No, I think all of you guys do an excellent job of really embodying your characters, and especially when it
Mhm.
comes to just the audio medium, so much can get lost in translation. Like when you're playing in real time around a table and you're able to see people's expressions, and like I feel like that gives people a distinct advantage. Like I would always prefer an in-person session over an audio session just because so much gets lost, which is
Yeah.
like why I tried like towards the end of the campaign that my buddy was running. I made the effort. I was the first person to flip on my webcam and be like, I'm doing the session with my webcam on. So you can see my
Mhm.
face, you can see my expression, you can see my characterization. Because, at least for me, it like just doing audio for me was a bit of a crutch. But that's also because I tend to read people, like in social situations. But with you guys, I don't know what your level of like how visible you guys are. It doesn't matter because you guys do such a good job, even just in the audio sphere, of so fully embodying the characters that it is seamless, the transition from you guys as players into your characters. This is what my character would say, think, do, etc. You guys have that down to a T. Like characterization wise, I know a lot of players where, by session 30 plus, they still it still feels like they're playing a character and they're not
Mhm.
comfortable with that character yet. Like they themselves as a player don't understand who they're playing as. But that is not the case with y'all. And it's just again, it's just a testament to how good y'all's campaign is and how well you guys play your characters.
Oh, well, thank you. That's really nice of you to say. I mean, obviously, I feel like we're at a level of investment where like this is like we love it. We look forward to it every time we play. And just I can't talk for the others, but at least for me with Piper, she is easily like one of my favorite D&D characters, like hands down. Um, she's the character I have the most art of, the most commissions of because I love her
Right.
so much. And it's just her story, like I've written backstories for several different characters, and I don't know, something about her, I guess I connect with more on a personal level because I think she's the character who's most like me.
Mm,
Because when I created her, I was basically creating a character like what if I was in the Mass Effect world? Me
mm,
as Natalie.
right.
So I put a lot of my own personal stuff into her. Um and like I pretty much based her appearance off of me. Like that's just she looks like me. That was intentional.
Yeah.
Um but um yeah, like her mom was a nurse or a doctor. My mom is a nurse. Um she had a strange relationship with her dad for a while. My parents were divorced, and I didn't see my dad growing up much when I was a kid, so I
Mm.
didn't really have a proper relationship with him that other people might have had. So like, she has a brother who she's close to. I have a brother who I'm pretty close to. Like, these were all like some subconscious things that I put into her that I didn't realize I was putting into her until later. When I thought
Wow.
about it, yeah, I was like, wait a minute. And the more I thought, I'm like, holy crap. Like, what in the
So
world?
one of the last one-offs that one of my friends did, I wanted to. Well, at the time we were hoping it was going to be more than a one-off, but suffice to say, I came up with this character named Ishmir, who was a like almost a Russian-sounding mountain dwarf, basically, who was like a scholar or almost a philosopher, and basically I'm so sick and tired of like the rote character introductions in so many D&D campaigns. Like, I get so sick and tired of the trope of, the five characters, random characters meeting together in a tavern, and a mysterious benefactor hires them to hunt down a goblin like
Hmm.
troop, and then fast forward 2 missions later and they're like killing a god and saving the world. I don't know, I just
Right.
get so sick and tired of that cycle and that just like those tropes, right? And so I was like, I
Right.
want to do a character introduction that's going to be different. So wisely, our one-off DM decided to make it so that way our characters knew each other, but she gave us a chance as we were introducing each other to give a tiny little story as to how our characters introduced ourselves to the party,
Hmm.
but like fast forwarding in time, where it's like, this didn't all happen in one event. You all met. How did you meet the group? Basically, like, what was your introduction to the group? So what I had them do was I had them write their character names on pieces of paper. But I told them it was so that way I'd get the spelling right, because obviously when you have fantastical characters, lots of times people's character names are hard to spell. But what they didn't
Hmm.
know is that as Ishmir, I was going to analyze their handwriting.
Hmm.
So years ago, I wrote a research paper on graphology, studying handwriting. I think it's really cool. I don't necessarily think it's definitely a pseudoscience. It's very interesting. There are some very obvious things you can tell about a person's handwriting. Once you get layers deep into some of the things, I think it starts to lose the thread a little bit on reality. But, you know, a lot of times it's a bit like horoscopes where you read them and people will sort of read themselves into the descriptions, right?
Hmm.
Like, if you keep your interpretations broad enough, people will respond to them. And so what I wanted people to do was I wanted them to write their character names so that Ishmir could analyze their handwriting. So in Ishmir's voice, I took all the pieces of paper and basically analyzed their handwriting as my character analyzing their character's handwriting, like around a campfire or whatever. And you
Hmm.
would not believe everyone in the room, like, as I'm like giving them their interpretation about their handwriting, how many of them like gave me a creepy look, like
Hmm.
spooky, where they're like, how do you know that? Like, I just wrote that in my character's backstory. How do you know that? Because
Wow.
subconsciously I'm like, people, there's a little piece of every player in their character. Even if their character, for the most part, is very different from them as a person,
Oh yeah.
there's always little bits and pieces of you in your characters. And so, as an example, one of the characters they wrote, because some of the players didn't have last names picked out yet, and that was tough because one of the things I wanted to analyze was the distance between their character's first name and their last name, because
Hmm.
according to graphology, the further apart it is could be indicative of the relationship between their family and the distance that's between them and their last name. Or like if they have like a cursive script and they do a bunch of scoring through the letters as like a flourish, it can be almost like they're trying to like mark it out, like scratch through it, right?
Huh.
There's bits about the felon's claw, which the felon's claw, so basically in handwriting you have upper, middle, and lower zones. So like in cursive or even just regular handwriting, like the top bubble of an H, like a lowercase h, would be an upper zone, and then like a
Hmm.
lower zone would be like the bubble of a G, like as you loop it around. The felon's claw is when someone takes a G or a Y and they move their pen downwards, but instead of doing a bubble loop, they hit an angle and they bounce it into like a hook or a claw.
Hmm.
So I'll pull it up on the terminal here so you understand what I'm talking about because it's difficult to describe. But basically, it's indicative, or supposedly, it's indicative of a more secretive personality or someone who maybe keeps secrets. They did a bunch of handwriting analysis in prisons, and that's how it got its name as the Felon Claw, because it was
Interesting.
more seen in people who were in prison for crimes related to lying, basically.
Right.
So there were little things like that where I was just like, based on the like slant of the handwriting, the size, I was able to tell like whether or not their character was more extroverted or whatever. And it was just so funny because like obviously I'm just talking out of the side of my mouth most of the time about the stuff, but you just have to make it sound like you know what you're talking about. But it was
Right.
so funny because obviously, like you said, you write sometimes even without thinking about it. You can write aspects of who you are as a person into your character. And it was just
Mm-hmm.
really, really interesting when that happened.
That is really interesting. I never thought about that. That's cool though.
All right. Well, here at our lovely corporation, you know, there's a glut of holidays that, you know, sometimes we get days off of work here at the company and sometimes we don't. And so I did some research. I don't know, you can find these calendars online obviously. I don't know if you've seen these where it's like a holiday every single day of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes me laugh is the contradictory things where like one website says, "Oh, it's this day today," and other websites say something entirely differently. But this one had me rolling because there are 3 holidays today that I would like to read to you.
All
So,
right.
as of today, today's holidays are Letter to an Elder Day, National Pistachio Day, and Tell a Fairy Tale Day.
Oh boy.
So, here's what I would like to propose. We are going to workshop an idea. And so, obviously, we are both peers working at this company. What I would like you to do is I will pretend to be some sort of manager, right? Or a boss, heaven forbid. And I would like you, if you are willing, to pitch me a way that our company can observe all 3 of these holidays
Oh
today.
boy.
So, if you were to pitch a holiday, if you were to become the Santa Claus of these 3 days, these 3 holidays combined, all right? If you, whenever you're ready, I will. Let me just. Oh, I'll pretend to. Oh, I am boss man doing boss things behind desk, and oh, I've a calendar today. Oh, looks like we don't have anything going on today. Oh, that's the door buzzer. Yes, secretary. Let the employee in. Oh, hello. I'm the boss.
Hi, boss. I'm just
Hello.
coming here to you with with a proposal.
Oh.
It looks like we have a few holidays today. And I just have an idea of how to observe these holidays if you're willing to listen.
Oh, absolutely.
So we have as of today, there's 3 holidays. There's Letter to an Elder Day,
Oh, okay.
there's National Pistachio Day,
Uh-huh.
and then there's Tell a Fairy Tale Day.
Okay.
So here's my idea, right? So, since it's Tell a Fairy Tale Day and Letter to an Elder Day, why don't we write fairy tales and letters to an elder?
Oh, interesting. Sort of a twofer deal going on there. I like
Yeah,
that.
be like, make sure that be like, give a nice little introduction, be like, be like, hey, it's good to hear from you, that kind of thing, and then, you know, weave that into like a fairy tale. Be like, here's a little story I want to tell you about.
I can't
That's
wait for you to include pistachios.
Yeah, so that I'm getting to that. So pistachios. That's the trickier one.
This was my point. I'm just like reading all 3 together and being like, how? How would you do all
um
3 of these?
um well, so pistachios. That
Mm-hmm.
that's the tricky one, isn't it?
Pistachios. Mm-hmm. Love them.
So obviously we're gonna write the fairy tale in letters. What if
Uh-huh.
we were to include like um a little like treat bag? Like like a trail mix kind of type thing. And then we put pistachios in there in the little trail mix thing. And like just it'd be like a little present, you know, just to make their day.
Do you
make
know
their
how
day.
confused this old person would be if they got a letter from a stranger with a random fairy tale in it in a bag of trail mix pistachios?
I don't know.
They would be so confused. I would be confused. That's amazing.
Maybe explain in the letter that it's the 3 holidays. It'd be like, yeah, this is what's going on. This is why this is happening.
Valued employee. I love your idea of this the combination of these 3 holidays. Clearly, at this corporation, we love to make things concise and truncated and connected and unified. My question to you is, what would the name of this holiday be?
Oh dear. Dear goodness. Okay. Let me think about that for a minute.
Take as much time as you need. I'll just be leaning back confidently in my chair, eating this bowl of pistachios.
Oh man. Let's see. What would this holiday be called? National Fairy Tale. Oh man, that's tricky.
It is. It's like all 3 of them are so like not similar.
Not related.
No,
at
not
all.
at all.
Pistachios, letters, and fairy tales. What in the world?
My question is always, who observes these? Why are these websites? Why do they exist? Who is
I don't
living
know,
their
man.
life like, oh, I gotta celebrate Pistachio Day? Like, what is going on?
Oh shoot, I don't know. I really don't know.
We're never gonna be able to get this on the company calendar. It needs a proper name.
Right. National Pistachio and Fairy Tale Day for Elders. I don't.
Print it! Print it! Right, get that, someone, secretary, write that down! Put it on the company calendar, send out memos! Wow. Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, I think that's where I'm going to end off the episode. Thank you so much, Natalie, for being on the podcast and talking nonsense with me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was
And
fun.
when you get that animatronic Raven up and working, I have a favor.
Okay.
So there's a guy currently on the roof of this building who has become the de facto king of the birds and are now waging war against the cult known as the Window Washers. If you were able to send that bird undercover to sort of see what's going on up there, because at the roof of the building there's just sort of an ever swirling column of birds now, and I'm just wondering if that's something we should be concerned about.
I will work on that. I will work on putting a little camera in its eyes so I could maybe set up like a surveillance cam.
Ooh, good
so
call.
we could see
good
it.
call. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again. Thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.